My grandmother Alicia lived in a typical village 70 kilometers from the city. Besides me and my mom, she only had a cat, a huge gray cat named Dante. The cat was of incredible size, probably all 8 kilograms of live weight, not counting the long, fluffy fur. His whiskers, like large antennas, were constantly tuned to everything happening around. I often asked my grandmother why she didn't have a dog. "Oh, dear," my grandmother waved her hands. "This cat, he's a beast, he'd tear any dog apart, wouldn't even let them near the yard. He's the best guard in the whole village, but he's always wandering into the woods, and what he does there, I can't imagine." My mom and I lived in the city, but every summer I spent all my holidays with my grandmother. The village was small, everyone knew each other, and people visited each other without hesitation to have a cup of tea, gossip, or even borrow essential groceries. And my grandmother's house was spacious, cozy, with a garden and even an orchard, a huge barn, and so many enchanting flowers around the house that my grandmother lovingly planted every spring, you couldn't take your eyes off them. The thought of the upcoming trip also pleased and inspired me as much as the trip itself. My grandmother never refused me anything, and I took advantage of it. Everything was the best, expensive, and sweet, all just for me, her beloved and only granddaughter. In the village, I felt safe, not lacking attention, care, or affection. So this year, in the 20s of May, as soon as school ended, I immediately packed my bags to go to my grandmother's village for the whole summer. As I entered the gate, I was greeted by Dante, the owner of the house, and behind him scampered some gray puppy. A happy grandmother came out onto the porch, and the smell of berry pies wafted from the house. "Granddaughter, you finally made it." My grandmother and I embraced tenderly. "Grandma, did you finally get a dog?" I asked in surprise, as I petted the puppy behind its ear. "It wasn't me who got the dog, it was Dante who got us the dog," began Grandma. "Back in April, as soon as the snow melted, he started his regular trips into the woods. One day I looked out the window, and he was carrying something in his teeth. He came and laid a gray bundle of fur on the porch. When I saw it, oh my goodness, where did he get it from, you can't even ask. Obviously from the woods, but where the mother of this creature is and what happened to her is unknown. So this foundling ended up living with us. Luckily he could already lap up milk by himself. Since then, he and the cat have been inseparable, walking together, eating from the same bowl, and sleeping by the stove on the same bedding. They curl up together, snuggle up, and sleep. I never thought our cat could be so gentle and caring. You should see how Dante licks this gray rascal and how they frolic around the yard together, it's hilarious. The cat teaches the wolf to hunt, isn't that funny? So we lived in the village with my grandmother all summer. The little wolf had grown quite a bit by the end of August and was the size of a small dog. His milk teeth had been replaced by sharp wolf fangs. I became very close friends with this unusual gray duo. A cat and a wolf, two good friends. I've never encountered anything like it before or since in my life. It was time to return to the city. I was packing my things, and the menagerie was swirling around me, sensing the upcoming separation. Grandma was also in complete distress. "Give my regards to your mom, darling, I'll be waiting for you in a month, come on, let's go mushroom picking. The weather this year is perfect for mushrooms, we'll gather porcini, boletes, and chanterelles." I promised my grandmother that I would definitely come in a month. At the bus stop, we said our goodbyes. Grandma was crying, while the cat and the wolf sat and watched us attentively. The bus arrived, I loaded my things, and Grandma waved goodbye for a long time as the bus departed. Well, just 2 stops left, and now it's time to walk. my feet will be sore by the time I get there, I thought, cursing the broken down bus. Grandma will worry that I didn't arrive on time as promised. I only had 2 stops left to get to the village when the bus, sneezing one last time, stalled. And it would have been fine, but my stop was the last one, and by that time, I was the only passenger left on the bus. Having no other choice, I grabbed my things, bid farewell to the driver, and headed towards the village. I walked along the highway, with dense forest on both sides. After passing one stop, I decided to take a little break on the roadside. Just as I stepped away from the road, a dark car zoomed past me. If I hadn't stepped off the road, it would have definitely hit me. The car blared music, deafening the forest with the crazy beat of the drums. The car sped ahead, gaining momentum, when suddenly I heard the faint sound of tires behind me. Turning around, I saw the familiar car creeping up behind me. Pulling up alongside, the car drove alongside me for a while, as if escorting me. Then the window rolled down, and I saw 2 men in the car, clearly intoxicated. Their smug grins frightened me. Ignoring them, I continued walking, then stopped, realizing the danger of the situation, alone on a deserted highway, with 2 drunk and seemingly determined men blocking my path. Guys, don't, I tried to reason with them. I only have about 10 minutes left to walk, then I'll cut through the field. The words hung in the air. The front door of the car opened, and a healthy guy in a tracksuit popped out. He rudely grabbed my hand and dragged me towards the car. I resisted, tears of fear welling up in my eyes. I started screaming, but I knew perfectly well that there was no help to be found. The man grabbed me, shoved me into the back seat of the car, and slammed the door shut. My heart sank. I huddled in the far corner, desperately trying to figure out what to do. The passenger took his seat, and the car sharply accelerated forward. They didn't go far. Turning into the nearest clearing, the car disappeared into the woods. The car stopped at the edge of the forest. There was no road ahead. The clearing was surrounded by low bushes on all sides. Getting out of the car, the men opened the back door, releasing me. I stood there, red-faced, mascara running, trembling with fear. I could accurately guess their next actions. One of them, grabbing my hand, pulled me towards him. I screamed and hit the man in the face as hard as I could, leaving claw marks. The man, not expecting resistance, pushed me in the chest, causing me to fly a meter to the side. That meter was enough for me to get back on my feet. Suddenly, a wild, inhuman voice echoed through the clearing. One of the men was screaming. Sharp wolf fangs sank into his leg, the jaws closed with a deadly grip above the ankle, teeth sinking into the soft flesh and pulling their prey deep into the bushes. The second man ran away without looking back, leaping over bumps and pits. Tripping over his own feet, he fell to the ground, and immediately sharp claws dug into his back. They scratched his back until it bled. The cat sank its teeth into the rapist's head and emitted a terrible growl. Horrific screams full of fear and pain echoed across the field. My saviors arrived just in time, a little more and I don't know what this attack by these awful thugs would have ended with. Having beaten up the rapists thoroughly and almost leaving them with no place to live, this angry duo finally stopped their punishment. Quickly sobering up, the guys jumped into their black car and locked themselves in. There was no more loud music or laughter. I walked across the field towards the village, accompanied by my furry defenders. Where they came from in this clearing in the woods and how they sensed trouble, I don't know. One thing is clear, with such a combat team, I had nothing else to fear. I didn't tell my grandmother and mother this story, so as not to scare them unnecessarily.